the Twat and a Bucket scene. That's scene 3.
Scene 3.
Scene 3. So you can't really see it very well, but it's, if I point over, you have shots coming across like this. So it follows a campsite, like at the camp. You have Lucy by the fire, and she's looking over towards the bucket, and she's having this one-sided conversation with the bucket here. As she delivers her lines, or partially through her lines, we'll cut to the bucket, as a common technique is to film people's reactions and not what's being said. So the twist is, the bucket is emotionless, it has no emotions, it's one emotion. So it's going to be costing towards that for somewhat comedic but dramatic effect at the same time. At the same time here we have a shot, so Lucy's going to walk from the camp to the tent, and we'll film from inside the tent and have Lucy walk towards the tent, turn around, block the shot, and then that's our natural cut to black for the end of the scene, as a good transition in my opinion.
This is the scene, this is lighting scene for scene 3. And what my plan is called a 3-point lighting setup. So basically it will have a key light, a fill light and a backup light. So the main light we're going to be on is a key light, which is going to focus on the actor's face. We're actually still in talk about having a fill light, just because we want a kind of natural background in the dark, so you want that dark background but only see the character's face. So kind of going for that, really.
So with regards to sort of the general cinematography and the camera work that's gone behind in scene 3, we're gonna have more medium shots in it, sort of to create an illusion that Lucy's having a conversation with Bob. Now, while Bob's not talking, we're treating Bob like a normal sort of person, because we want Lucy to get over her dilemma of trying to overcome this sort of inability to talk to people properly. So we're gonna have shots between. We're going to have shallow sort of focus between Lucy and Bob, just to sort of create that effect and sort of have their sort of expressions like really focused upon. Now, for this scene, because of the fire, we're going to have a sort of warm hue, which I'm going to work with Lewis to sort of create that with the 3-point light setup, and that sort of warm hues to reflect the anger that that Lucy has upon herself, because she's really annoyed that she wanted to talk with Bruce, because in the scene beforehand where she was scavenging, she spots Bruce. She wanted to talk to him, but couldn't because of her inability to sort of say much. As I said, there's mainly sort of shallow focus between Lucy and Bob to make them the centre of the attention. For this scene in particular, I'm going to be using 35mm lens for sort of these wide shots, which we're going to see. Sliders as well for a couple of shots where we're going to sort of have on top of the reaction shots between two characters. On top of that, we've got slider shots as well, just to sort of keep things interesting, make sure the audience stay focused on it really, and then obviously two tripods to stabilise that. There's an extreme close-up of Lucy's eyes as she's sort of looking off into the distance, thinking about Bruce and thinking about other things that occurred in the previous scene. We're going to have close-ups of Lucy's face as well as Bob. We are going to have some medium shots to create that illusion that they're having a conversation, and with the reaction shots are going to be over-the-shoulder shots. There's also going to be one final shot, which was in the previous scene, but we're going to cut to black, and then there's going to be a sort of fade-in shot of Lucy sleeping after she's returned to the tent, almost in a grump really, and there's going to be a bit of a Dutch tilt to sort of imply that there is a dilemma going on.
Right, so my plan for scene 3 is to cross-cut between shots of Lucy and the bucket. And cross-cutting is basically where you go back and forth. So let's say Lucy's talking, you'll be focusing on Lucy, and when Lucy stops talking, it will cut to the bucket, or it will just cut between two when Lucy's talking. So what I was thinking of doing, so when Lucy's talking, there's going to be a slight pause at some points. So when she stops talking, when it cuts to the bucket, it's going to show that obviously the bucket can't answer, and it shows she's a bit lonely. And I'm also, like I've said, I want to colour grade the scene with a blue tint to make it seem cold. So if she's near the fire, there's going to be obviously like a red reflection from the light onto her face, and then in the background it's going to be slightly like a blue tint to make it seem cold, and that's going to show that she's kind of isolated at the same time, and where she's currently living. Yeah, and she's obviously trying to keep warm from the fire.
As I said before, it's a lot of similar points, but the scene 3 won't be filmed chronologically, as you'd never really film chronologically. However, we will be filming scene 5 at the same time, so it's the same night, so there's a lot of similar shots. We'll be filming both scenes, so that's something we have to keep on top of, making sure we have all of the right shots being filmed for the scenes and not getting them mixed up at all, keeping everything organised. Also, something I'm going to have to make sure I do is have faith in my crew and actors, and make sure I leave them to do their jobs and not take over, which I think I tend to do. So I'm planning just to leave them to get on with it and then assess and make adjustments if needed. So, yeah.
The sound for the scene 3 is going to be quite similar to the rest of the production. However, there's going to be a lot of dialogue between Lucy and the bucket. Like Matt said, in post we're going to have silence when it's the bucket's turn to speak, obviously because Bob can't respond. So for those moments we may have amplified ambient sounds as well to show like the lack of response that Lucy is actually getting from Bob, both in terms of conversation and mental stimulation. This may add like a slight comedic effect, but hopefully it should complement the atmosphere quite nicely with like the silence and the eeriness of the conversation, seeing as she's kind of speaking to herself through Bob. Other than the dialogue, there will be like crackling of the fire and stuff like that to kind of have the same effect to emphasize the lack of conversation that she's receiving from Bob.
Here's just a quick picture or screenshots of our production schedule. I've done at the very beginning, middle, and obviously this week. That's all we really can do now.
Oh, I believe that's everything.
That's it.
Yeah, well done.